How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
This message is brought to you by Abercrombie Kids, where the activewear is made for every summer activity, so your mini-me can bring their personal best. Summer days are always an adventure, from day camp to rec leagues and pool days. Abercrombie Kids has the shorts, tees, and swim to keep them comfy and keep up with them. Get everything for the entire summer at Abercrombie Kids. Shop in-store, online, or in the app.
War Eagle, and welcome to another edition of Ever to Podcast, our somewhat regular get-together with you in an audio format here at the E2C Network, where we share the Auburn experience. The Auburn experience to us is all about a few things: Auburn sports, Auburn culture, and Auburn family stuff. An easier way to say it might be, though, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. And we thank you so much for joining us in what we're going to be doing today on episode 24 of Ever to Podcast. Today's date is June 17th, 2025, and I'm your host, as always, Kyle Loomis, to talk about the latest Auburn news, topics, conversations that are out there on social media and just in the general Auburn populace. Let's get into that today. We're going to be hitting a little bit of rankings updates for Auburn football. Remember, these are just for preseason things. The women's basketball SEC opponents are now known, and we've got some updates in the transfer portal for softball and a few other things that we might get into given the time frame. Let's start off with some Auburn football rankings. I know this is what helps you get through the off season. All of you right now are asking the same questions over. What is your record prediction? Who do you think is going to be starting at this position? And I know we can only regurgitate those things so many times, and these don't help. But what do you think Auburn will be ranked? But as long as we keep things into perspective here about these rankings, that these are simply just people's opinions and really don't mean much outside of that. And some of these are done by computers and all that kind of stuff. It's fine to have conversations about that. So let's talk about the ESPN FPI. Now, we've discussed this previously, the Football Power Index, and they put Auburn pretty decent, I think, by most people in the teens for their overall index. But now that index has predicted the outcome of the season for Auburn football. So when a lot of you come to me and ask me what's my season predictions, I'm not even going to venture to put that into writing or a formality until we get much closer. But maybe you can start picturing here, gathering information from other sources like this, what maybe your expectations might be for the season. Again, this is only just for speculation and, not too much. So anyway, all right, ESPN FPI predicts 7-5 for Auburn football in 2025. Let that sink in for just a second. I know a lot of you right now are having instant reactions. Some of you are like, well, I mean, it's an improvement, and certainly that puts us in a bowl situation, and it's a winning season and the right trajectory. And some of you right now are bristling at the thought of 7-5. Let me just talk to both of you. First of all, I'm glad that so many of you are probably okay, that it's okay. As long as there's progress, that's what we want to see. And maybe you do want a little bit more, but you're okay with that. There's nothing wrong with having a little bit of higher expectations, though, to do a little bit better. Auburn football, I think, historically as a program, should always have the expectation of reaching 8-4 as a minimum. That doesn't mean that 7-5 by any stretch of the imagination is a bad thing. It just means that maybe there's some context that's missing from that. If it's not having the context, maybe they were just a bad team and bad coached. It could be. But sometimes, and I would even venture to say a lot of times, maybe that's not the case. For those of you that are bristling, again, 7-5 from an FPI ESPN index is not that big a deal, folks. It means nothing right now. Don't get on your grandstand or anything like that. This is simply what their index thinks might happen in the course of the season playing in the tough SEC. Now, if we look at the schedule very quickly here before we move on topics and maybe guess what the FPI is predicting, because I don't think they predicted which games we would lose, just the record itself. So looking at the schedule, I'm going to venture to say that they're saying we win Ball State, South Alabama, probably Kentucky, probably Vanderbilt, even there, Mercer. It's probably easier to do the losses. They're probably saying a loss to Alabama, probably saying a loss to Georgia, probably Texas A&M, probably Oklahoma, and maybe either a Baylor or an Arkansas on the road, something like that. So 5 losses. You take the guess where the FPI thinks that's going to fall. Just another ranking for you to consider and think about as we get into further and further in the offseason, and people just continue to speculate about what might happen. Let's move on into some announcements today. This is actually kind of fresh as I'm recording this. Women's basketball, Auburn women's basketball now knows officially their opponents for the SEC for the 2025-26 season. So I'm going to read some stuff to you from the release here as well, just because it'll give you good information. They will remain in a 16-game league schedule with 8 games apiece at home and on the road, and this is for all SEC teams. This will be the second year of doing that, and each team will play 14 single-season games against conference opponents, which means that 2 teams will be 16-game league schedule. 14 single games against conference opponents, 7 at home and 7 away, so they're going to miss out maybe on somebody. Or I guess maybe I'm reading this a little bit wrong. Anyway, it doesn't matter. 14 single games. Each team will have 1 home-and-home opponent that will rotate each season. Auburn's home-and-home opponent for this year is not Alabama. Not that it is every year, but Florida. I think personally we should be keeping Alabama as the home-and-home opponent every single year. I think everybody has that primary rival that should be happening with, even across all sports. Just an opinion of mine. I don't have to share it, but that's what it is. And right now, Auburn will play host to Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, LSU, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Tennessee next season. That is some tough opponents at home, but thankfully is going to be at home under Coach Larry Vickers' first year. So he will definitely have the crowd behind him in those very crucial games against LSU, against South Carolina, against your traditional rival, Alabama, getting Florida a crack at them at home as well, also on the road. The rest of your schedule, Arkansas, Florida, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Missouri, Texas, Texas A&M, and Vanderbilt are all going to be on the road for us to round out that SEC schedule, that 14 single-game schedule. Conference play starts on New Year's Day and runs through March 1st, and the SEC tournament will have its 4th straight year in Greenville, South Carolina, March 4th through the 8th. So that is some information for you about women's basketball, what you can look forward to under the first year with Coach Larry Vickers. Obviously, he's got a uphill battle, as any coach does in a first year. Doesn't mean there won't be some great highs and some great surprises and things like that. He certainly has done a great job of assembling his roster, which was depleted after the transition happened to this new coaching regime. But playing in the SEC is no joke, no matter the sport, but at least now you know who your opponents are and where maybe some of the toughest ones, or prospective toughest ones, you'll get those at home, which is a good thing. Let's also talk about some updates to the Auburn softball roster. I know that we focus a lot on recruiting as fans for football, maybe basketball, and maybe a little bit of baseball too, but we often don't get a chance to update you guys on softball. So yesterday it was announced that Auburn softball has added yet another transfer in the transfer portal. So as of today, in this particular edition, it makes it 4 total out of the portal. Her name is Kylie Shaw, and she's an outfielder from Florida. So Auburn is poaching from the Florida Gators and poaching from the SEC. This will be year number 2 for the coaches Malveaux, as I call them. And you love to see when they can find some of the talent that maybe either wants a fresh start or is not getting the playing time that maybe they deserve, or something of that nature. In SEC talent is SEC talent. I say go get as many of them as you can. So Kylie Shaw, outfielder from Florida, as a one-year freshman over there, is coming to be with the Auburn Tigers. She is the second from the SEC in the transfer portal, as Abby Herndon, already from Ole Miss, has transferred to Auburn. The other 2, Ella Harrison of Rutgers, Alyssa Hastings of Lipscomb, have also been added to this roster. Now, year number 2 is going to be very important for the coaches, and certainly where they did not struggle too much in non-conference play, but did struggle at times in conference play. I think adding SEC talent like Kylie Shaw, like Abby Herndon, is going to be crucial. People who are battle-tested, know what they're up against each and every weekend when you start conference play in softball for Auburn and for others, obviously, in the conference. And maybe as a final quick note, I want to say a happy National Mascots Day to the greatest mascot that ever was and ever will be, Aubie the Tiger. Yes, folks, for those of you that may tune in that are Auburn fans, which is, you're welcome to be here. Certainly, it's a little weird, though. We have one mascot. Now, certainly we can make a case and have a conversation about the War Eagle and whether we still consider that a true mascot or not. Yeah, it's probably debatable, but happy National Mascots Day to Aubie the Tiger, the 11-time national champion mascot, literally the GOAT. It's not a goat, the tiger of all tigers. We love him, and we love having him on the sidelines in our lives. He makes everybody happy. Who doesn't love Aubie? So happy National Mascots Day to him. So those are your updates for Ever to Podcast. As always, we want to hear from you. Hit us up, direct messages on social media. If you can do that, we'll maybe feature something you say or a question you ask or comment here on Ever to Podcast. You can also email us if it needs to be a little bit more detailed, if you want to share a War Eagle moment or something like that. e2cnetwork@gmail.com. And if you're listening to this podcast on the day it's released, I want to invite you tonight to YouTube to a conversation we're going to have with Clint Richardson of the Auburn Uniform Database, where he is going to be sharing his 11th edition of Crazy Auburn Uniforms. This is a series he does every single summer. So I hope you can join us for that at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube. You can also catch the replay if you're hearing this off in the future, which I'm sure most of you are. Thanks for tuning in today. Episode 24 of Ever to Podcast. We appreciate you being here. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.